All right, we're on.
Hi. Hi. So this is Susan Yaki. How's everybody doing today? I'm super excited. I'd like to personally welcome Lucia Ferraro to our ultimate 90-day way to health group. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Oh my God, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for asking me, Susan. So, hi, everybody.
So, well, first, let me just share a little bit about Lucia. She is a certified life coach and fitness instructor, as well as a highly successful motivational speaker. And her extensive work and experience in health and weight management have helped many attain physical success through detailed attention to their psychological and physio- physiological, excuse my uh, terms there, aspects of transformation. And so, as a life coach, Lucia helps her clients design and define a life that's in harmony with their soul's purpose. So, she actually specializes in helping people who feel stuck and dissatisfied with their lives so that they can quickly get unstuck. So, I really love that about you, Lucia, is that you're committed to people just being able to flow and ease through their management around weight and um, but what I love about Lucia as well is she's so giving and inspiring and fun and has some really great wisdom that she shares with me all the time. So I just am very fortunate to have her as a good friend. Um, so well, let's get this party started.
Roll with
Um,
that. Thank you for that, Susan. That was very sweet. And yeah, it's when we can bounce off of each other, it makes so much. It makes our efforts so much easier to do, right? When you have
yeah.
a partner. But
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's like all of this.
So well, so as you know, in the group we have about 44 women who are all about transforming their life so that they can live healthier, wealthier, and my game is to empower them in having that knowledge to do that. And so that's why I invite experts as yourself to come on here and share. So my
Hmm.
first question for you is, why is it so important to shift our mindsets for weight loss and weight management?
Hmm. It's, in my opinion, the key to the kingdom. It's the key to the kingdom for anything you want to accomplish in your life, quite honestly. To coin the phrase from Wayne Dyer, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And as soon as I heard that, read that, however I found it out from him, I thought, that's brilliant. And so in anything that we really want to accomplish, especially when it touches us in ways emotionally. I teach my kids that, you have your thought process, but when emotion's involved, all bets are off because we act out of emotion. We
Right.
we will see our conscious mind and know that we have an intelligence, and then it's like, well, I know I'm intelligent, but now I have all this emotion, and that's what's driving the bus today. And especially when it comes to our own self.
Mm,
So if that mind shift doesn't occur at some point, or let me just be kind enough to say that if we are not open to allowing the feelings to come in, to sort of ask ourselves, what is this all about? I mean, that's what I ended up doing. And let me, if I can just take a sidetrack to explain a little bit about my story. I lost 80 pounds about 20 years ago. And
wow.
yeah, and I have had a weight issue my entire life at that point. I was actually turning 40. All right, people doing the math. I was doing, and so I was turning 40. And so, well, it was probably 19 years. I'm going to be 59 on Thursday. So, um,
Mm,
but I said, if I don't, I remembered feeling the same way I did at 30. And I said, here is a decade that passed, and I'm doing the same stuff again. Except, what's the coin of the phrase is if you do the same thing over and over again,
mhm,
expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity. So I recognize that part of the things I was like, all of us can figure and find a meal plan, and and look at the recipes and make food. But
Right.
it's about how and why do I choose then not to have that and have something else that my emotion dictated. So I quickly recognized that I had to change the way I looked at everything,
Yeah.
and not make this, another effort of trying to force the square peg into a round hole again, which is ultimately at the end of the day, after quitting and starting again on a Monday, right? Starting up and then doing it again. I said, I can't keep this up like this. So I had a picture.
Yeah.
I had to find out what it was that I was thinking about this, because ultimately we all have certain thoughts that come up.
Mm-hmm.
The thoughts create an emotion. The emotion that stirs is what dictates our action, and the action are results. Very simple,
Right.
4 little pronged, but
Yeah.
it's also what am I thinking about? Because then it was my past. Every time I started something, I failed or I quit, and it didn't work anyway. So I was going to start again with that thought, and I
Right.
thought, well, how's that working for you? I'm going to
Right.
start this
Right.
again. So when it comes to shifting our mind, it's really about what I just as a hindsight again, not knowing what I didn't know then 80 pounds before now, is that everything showed up for me to teach me about who I am and what I want to present to the world and how the weight of this package looks. And so, because a lot of things that were showing up that were resisting me was about my self-worth and am I not good enough and all of that stuff. And of course, when you're talking about body image and your weight, that's the top of the list, right? On
Right.
you're not good enough, and then look at you, Lucia, So, and I went, wow, I can't believe I'm thinking like that. So it really is a question of allowing yourself this opportunity, and I'm going to call it that because the world opened up when I allowed this to happen. So allow yourself the opportunity to say, why are these thoughts in my head that are dictating this emotion that's coming up, and what is that? What is this emotion? What am I feeling? Ultimately it was about my worthiness to just, was I deserving of a nice body, a good, in my opinion, right? And we're not consciously thinking that. We're like, get it off of me. Yesterday.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would find myself starting and stopping and a little bit more each time. But ultimately, when I did that turnaround about like letting things show up for me, creating a plan, a weight loss plan that I could live with. Me, not you, me.
Right.
And so when I allowed myself, and it was only me standing in my way, when I allowed myself that was going to be okay, everything was okay. It's like, if you think you can't, this is Henry Ford. If you think you can't, or you think you can, you're right.
Nice.
I heard that and I was like, whoa. So the shift in the mindset is key to understanding that, and how you go about that is really to be aware of the thoughts that are coming around in your head, and especially, and we could probably spend the whole interview on this question because
that was going to be my next question, is how do you identify those kinds of thoughts?
Well, there you go. We're segueing. System. Well, I think it becomes clear. Sometimes our thoughts dictate an emotion that is so comfortable that we don't even know we're having it. So I call it being comfortable in the discomfort, if that makes sense. You know why? Because I have known it for so long. I've thought it for so long. It's like my sister friend. I understand this thought, and I understand the feeling that comes up with it. I don't like it, but I understand it. And it's there like a comfortable coat. I used to call it, I feel like I could put the feeling on like a comfortable jacket that wasn't comfortable anymore, pinched and all of that, but I wore it anyway. So once you start to expose the thoughts that are coming up, and really I backed into it. Like I looked at the results I was getting, and from the results I said, okay, well, here were my actions. Well, if my actions were, I don't know, I'm just going to eat the piece of cake anyway and deal with it tomorrow kind of thing. And then the remorse, no sooner, I used to tell everybody, no sooner did I swallow it, remorse set in, and I I just confirmed my not worthiness and my not enoughness. I just
Mm.
confirmed that's true.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think the first things are to really understand, like, what's the event, what's happening, what's the first thought that comes up. And I just started writing out the thoughts that were coming up from the feelings,
Mm.
which seemed like such a weird exercise for me. But I thought I never did that before.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I need to figure this out. That's what I just remembered saying
Mhm.
that. I have to figure this out because I just don't want to feel like this anymore. And here I was
Yeah.
starting back then, my 40s. And I said, by the time I blink, I'll be 50 crying about this still.
Right.
And that was what was pissing me
Mm.
off. And I don't want
Right.
to still be thinking about that. So when you have the thoughts come up, it's really,
Mhm.
how can I look at this differently?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
when we make the decision, and it always comes down to that, when we make the decision, and I'll just choose this decision, do we want to lose weight? We also have a subconscious thought that says, oh, that's going to require something of you, right?
Mhm.
You have to do stuff.
Okay.
You're going to have to do stuff to lose this weight. And
Right.
do I have it in me to do that? So I really let that show up for what I was feeling and allowing myself the opportunity to make it look like I needed to, not what
Mm.
the internet dictated, any books dictated, any,
Mhm.
whatever weight loss program said. If I could
Right.
take those pieces, because the answers are all out there. The
Yeah.
answers are all out there. It's really just about what's going to fit for me.
Okay.
And then I was
Okay.
able to allow myself to be accountable to somebody so that I could be
Yeah.
I could show up that way. And when my
Mhm.
actions started to dictate a better result, I said, oh, now I'm on to something.
Mhm.
So I didn't look at this as I was going to fail. I looked at this as I'm going to succeed, and I don't care how long it takes me.
Yeah. Well, and what I like about what you said about that piece that stood out for me was, instead of resisting those I'm not worthy thoughts, the ones that you're identifying, like embrace them,
Hmm.
instead of resisting them, because it's in the resistance that it keeps showing up.
Right.
So I really like that. Yeah. Okay.
Resistance and the belief. Now, I came from a long string of women who were overweight, obese.
Yeah.
And I started telling myself, well, that's just in the genes. And I went,
Mm,
wait a minute, sister, no.
right.
Because I was already far more active than my mother had been. I
Yeah.
like I was out and being active and doing all those things than my mother had been. I had already changed my
Mm,
my food behavior. I had already,
yeah.
we grew up, when you know better, you do better, right? That's a Maya Angelou
Right.
quote. And so knowing what we knew from back then to what I knew then, even 19, 20 years ago, I changed
Hmm.
the way I was eating. And I
Yeah.
made it very simple. So I had to stop telling myself the story that all of the people in the Ferraro family are overweight. So what makes you
Mm,
think you're going to lose your weight, girl? I was
yeah. So
believing,
it's like a generational thing.
hell yeah, my mother, her mother, my
You got to put
grandmother,
a
my
stop
father's
to
mother.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kept making it my story. And
Oh,
I always tell my clients this: if you're going to make up a story, make it a good one.
right?
Make it a good one. If you're not going to confirm anything different, then make it a good story. And I wasn't making it a good one. And I
Yeah.
said to myself, well, I'm going to just break that pattern with me, because I didn't want my kids to feel like me.
Yeah.
That was not going to stop. That was not going to continue on my watch.
Right.
And I
Well,
know
how do you,
make that sound so easy, but go on.
well, and I was going to say, what does self-compassion got to do with anything
Yeah.
of what you're saying?
Yeah. And take any one of us that are watching this right now, right? I will be the first
Hmm.
person to help you, lift you up, girlfriend. If you told me, I don't know what it takes and I gain more weight and all of that, I would be right on your page of
Yeah.
helping to lift you up. But when it came to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was so obvious. It was
Mm,
so freaking obvious, and again, it pissed me off. But
right.
I wasn't as aware of it as I'm making it sound now. I really started to recognize that I'm not even being my own best friend here.
Mm,
Like I was with a girl that we were doing this together. I was doing it to change my life,
yeah.
literally. I mean, thankfully, I had no health issues. I had nothing knocking at the door saying, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. I just knew that I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I needed to subconsciously probably role model to my kids, but and my girlfriend wanted to lose weight for a wedding. And so anytime she had this defeat kind of comments, I was like, no, girl, I would lift her right on up.
Yeah.
But I found myself making it not okay for me. You know, when my defeat came up, I leaned into it again because it was a comfortable feeling, right? It was a comfortable feeling. So, and I allowed for the comfortable feeling to come up, and I kept saying to myself, how's that working for you?
Right.
Literally. Yeah. I know I'm making this sound like it's the simplest thing since, you know, what did they call it in the back of the day? Sliced bread. My kids are like, what is that all about? You know, I said,
right.
The saying. It's just, is that your daughter? Oh, she's too cute. You run to the closet.
So, yeah, so much for the quiet space, right?
That's okay. That's called life. That's called life. And that was the other thing I allowed myself for, a life on life's terms. And if I can say it like that, because when your life shows up, allow life to talk to you. And because here's the other thing I had said to myself, and when I heard it, I went, uh-oh. I said, I can't wait for my life to get out of my way so I can lose my weight. Now, I had been thinking that, but I never said it. And as soon as I said it, I went, oh my God, when is that going to happen? That will never happen. So if you think that that's what you need, it will never happen, so you won't lose your weight. So I said, I have to change that thought right now.
Yeah.
And again, the feelings come up, and that's the work that happens, because it's very easy for me to just give right back into eating poorly, not having any effort to drink water and all the things that we know we have to do. All of that. We know everybody has a list from who's ever, whatever, of things that we would have to do. So,
right. Okay.
So that's what I'm going to say. If you're not kind to yourself, like you were your own best friend, that's going to halt you.
Right. Well, and I could see how that would also be something that you could identify as one of those thoughts.
Yeah. So, wait, hold on. I'm going to put us on pause so that you can address your daughter, because this is what life is called.
Yes.
I'm putting us on pause.
Okay.
All right, we're back. Bella, that was a Bella pause.
Yeah, Bella pause.
And Bella means a beautiful, huh? A Bella.
Yes.
So that's good. And
I love her name because it's beautiful, and it also represents war. And doesn't it seem like sometimes we're at war with ourselves in our head?
Sometimes. Freaking all the time.
All the time.
No, you know what? I want, if the one message that comes clear to this, to everybody watching this, is that everything will always show up.
Yeah.
To ask, I always say that things show up to ask you how important it is to you. So to derail you, to take you out of, and your thoughts think that they're helping you. They're keeping you safe, because it's like you have this belief. Why are you straying from it? And what ends up happening is we never really look at the beliefs that we have. It's like a computer download. Like, can you imagine downloading all of these years and never cleaning up the disk, never cleaning your computer? I'm going to use that. It sounds so simple as a metaphor, but think about it.
Right, yeah.
If you think about all the download, and then it slows everything up and nothing's working. Didn't you have your computer crash?
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. And people, so we have to check in, like our values, our morals. We check in. My values at 20 are for sure changed that I'm turning 59. For sure. Yeah. When I was 20, what did I know back then? I determined, right? So really kind of checking in with yourself is the best thing that you can do. I would never think to let my kids go off into the world and I hope you do well. Hope you don't come checking in again. It's crazy. It's crazy, and I don't want to derail myself with that. But, things will show up. So we have over 200 food decisions a day. Wow. Over that. Whether you smell something, what are you going to make? Like, there's over 200. It's proven.
Right.
It's statistic. Google it. Go ahead. You'll learn more.
Well, that leads into a really good question that I have for you. It's, so many people, especially women, have an opinion about their body. and it's usually not a good one. How can we change the way we look at our body image? I mean, especially when you're downloading all this information on a regular basis, like, how do you just do that?
I think it's interesting too that most of the public and the media are also coming to the conclusion of what a disservice that has been. I know that, what was it? Was it the Dove commercials and all of that stuff too, about people embracing their body? And I guess the disservice has come without being addressed, right? We just, that's paradigms. That's everything I was just talking about with the computer. Well, we saw an image. Everybody responded to the image. I thought the image looked nice. That should be me, even if it isn't me. Back in my day, it was Twiggy. Twiggy? If I look at Twiggy now, now at what she looked like then, she was an emaciated, like, why did I connect with I should look like that? So I had to be okay with that. I mean, I did a lot of image work for myself in terms of even getting myself naked in the mirror and trying to say what I love about my body, and honoring my body. And even it was at the point where I had my kids already. I had 3 kids, and recognizing what my body actually went through to do that. I popped out 3 humans. Like, really?
Right.
And here I am chastising myself. And so once I recognized all of that, and it truly came from just analyzing the thoughts that were going in my head. Why do I feel that way? Sometimes I didn't have an answer. I just wrote this down. I don't know, but I feel this way. And so it's getting in the way and derailing me. And so because the thoughts dictate an emotion, how can I look at that and feel differently about it? So when my body image came up, because my body's going to be my body, it will never be Twiggy. I'm 5 foot tall. I don't want it to be Twiggy at this point, or anybody. I'm who I am. And it was ultimately about embracing me and knowing that I was enough of what I delivered too. So I did look at that as, here's how I also switched things. I said to myself, I'm going to already have lost my weight in my head. I've lost the weight in my head. And I did this for members. I worked for Weight Watchers for 15 years. And I had said to them, I went like I Dream a Genie. And if you don't know I Dream a Genie, all right, we'll talk. But I did the I Dream a Genie, and I went, I'm putting everybody at goal. And they all went, what? And I said, I want you to close your eyes, and I want to picture yourself at goal. And I want you to show me and show yourself how you stay there. Because we all have lost weight. We all can lose weight. It's keeping it off that has always been my burden. And I said, I'm not going to make it a burden anymore. I'm just going to act as if. And I just changed that way. I looked at the model of perfection that I was measuring myself to, which we were never meant to be perfect. We were meant to be whole, quite honestly. And that's a Jane Fonda quote, and I loved it. And so I looked at the model, and I used it to say, well, what would, if it's not me, what would the perfect, Weight Watcher do? And I would take it from the list. I didn't make it about that I'm not perfect. I said, let me try what this perfection would do. And then I would make it fit me. And ultimately we end up doing that, right? We start eating, I don't know, I remember doing the zone diet or whatever. I'm not going to badmouth any diet. I really don't do that. And I was like, put orange with the yellow, and it was all of this stuff. And I said, I'll never maintain that. I'll never keep doing that. And that was the disconnect for me. I knew that the things I was trying to do were not me. And so I hung in there, and I knew it would break because I never made it me. I know that sounds so simple, but that is exactly it. Because once I made that easier, I was able to change the thoughts in my head to, I can do this. And here's what it looks like. I hope that helps, because it is about believing.
It really does.
Being kind to yourself and sort of identifying, when you identify the thoughts that you're having, you out them. You give them their day in court, and you say, well, is that true? Like I said to you before, I can't wait for my life to get out of my way so I can lose my weight. I was like, whoa. Really as soon as it came out, I changed the belief, because I said, that's not true. I have a life. It has 3 children in it. It is crazy. It's constantly in motion. It's never going to be out of my way. And if I keep thinking that, then I will always have this weight on me, and that I didn't want to have. If I can say. And so, and that kind of couples with living mindfully,
Yeah.
and in the moment.
Okay.
And each moment I took, not that I did see the end result, but I said, if I don't take this every moment.
Right. And it is like one step at a time. It's not like, oh, you got to try to do it all in one day and get it all done.
You want
It,
to.
it really is baby.
You
Yeah.
want,
Little
you want
steps.
to.
Yeah.
Because the decision usually is the hardest thing. Okay, I'm going to take charge. I'm going to do something about it. Now it's going to require something of me, and I can get like scared because I did this before,
Right.
right? So I said, if I just mindful about today, just let me deal with today, this meal. Let me just deal with this meal.
Yeah.
Then I can, I like the imagery of, back in the day when the guys used to walk in in the desert, they would just have lamps on their feet. They couldn't see that because it was dark. So they would just take the one step and it would illuminate the next step. And I thought, I like that story, and that's what I'm going to do. I want it off yesterday because I made the decision. But if I do it the same way I've always done it, I will still end up that way and feeling worse about myself. So I made concerted of little efforts that way and kept showing up for what I was thinking about.
Okay.
Because as soon as I derailed myself, I took it back and I said, okay, here we go. You're going back to weight gain journey. Okay. What's going on?
Yeah.
I hope I don't mean to make that so sketchy because I have sheets we can.
Well, what leads to my next question? We're always in sync. What's happiness got to do with all this?
Well, yeah, right.
Even like how can you be happy when you're trying to lose weight?
Well, I think everybody's got that goal, right? That
yeah,
I want to be happy. I know if I could just I asked this question in a meeting one time. So the woman says, if I could just lose this weight, then I'd be happy. I said, okay, well, what does happiness look like to you? And she went, she didn't have the definition. Right. It was pure. It was so wonderful that it was so authentic. She was so pure about it. And everyone looked and said, I don't know that I have my picture either. And that was such a breakthrough moment. It really was, because we all have these words that we throw around. Happiness. That's, I just want to be happy. I just want my kids to be happy, right? We all say it. Yeah. But what that picture is in my head and what that picture is in your head is all different.
Right.
So if I don't even have a picture, where am I going?
Excuse me. Right.
So I had to define it for myself. And it has a lot to do with it, because if you don't know what happiness looks like in your picture, you're not going to know it shows up.
Yeah.
So I shifted from the numbers on the scale to because if I was going to keep this weight off for the rest of my life, it better look good. My life better look good in how I choose, because I don't want to not now go out to dinner, not have a drink, eat chocolate ever again. I mean, I didn't want to do that unless it was my choice not to, right? So I made it all fit in. And as I did that, it gave me those moments of happiness that I was looking for, which was to believe in myself. That was a picture in my happiness.
Yeah.
So with this analysis, and I'm going to call it that because it is an analysis of, what are you thinking about? What story are you telling yourself? We don't know that we're telling ourselves a story, but we are.
Yeah.
When I know, like when the story came so clear about that, my mother was obese, so therefore I will be obese. My mother doesn't, and then when I said, well, my mother doesn't exercise and I do, I love it. I love moving. I love dancing. And it looked like that. It didn't look like at the gym on the treadmill. It looked like going out to clubs and dancing, or going out, I teach jazzercise. And that was my form. So the things started to shift. And as that started to shift, my resolve strengthened and my efforts changed. And the way I looked at everything was like, I'm doing this. This is how this is going to look.
That's beautiful. So how can we live and eat mindfully?
Well, again, I think it's about being present, being here, being now. What do I have coming up? I found myself as I was losing the weight, I was invited to a wedding. Wow. was like,
Right? Yeah, it happens.
what the hell am I doing? And what am I going to wear? And how am I going to behave? And immediately it wasn't about the couple at all.
Yeah.
It was all about me and being, and where I was going to, and how I was going to show up, what I was going to wear, how I was going to feel. And when that happened, this is in the mail. I didn't even open it up.
Mm.
I swear to you, I just took it out of the mailbox. I knew it was a wedding invitation. It was my cousin getting married.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't even open it up. And from the mailbox to my house, all of these emotions came up.
Wow.
It was whacked.
Yeah.
And I said, wow. And I regrouped myself and I just said, okay, you're going to find something pretty for that day in the body that you're in, and you're going to choose appropriate to a wedding and have fun at that. So what I made up a rule. If it didn't have a party in my mouth, I didn't eat it.
Uh-huh.
And if it, right, because it really has,
Yep.
you know, when you put something in your mouth, you go, oh God, that's,
Yeah.
And sometimes I've had myself where I ate a whole thing of cake and the whole time going, you know, the cake's not really that good, right? Oh, wait, the icing's not that sweet. And I ate the whole damn thing, complaining about it.
Yep.
And so I went, there's a rule. If it doesn't have a party in my mouth, I'm not having it. So it had a job. And so I actually went to the wedding.
Uh-huh.
My cousins with me, my other cousins, and they had a chocolate fountain I never had seen before, a chocolate fountain. I was like, what is this? But you know what? It was terrible. I had all these plates of chocolate strawberries, whatever the hell they had. And my cousin was like, and I said, well, if it doesn't have a party in my mouth, I'm not eating it. And as soon as I took the strawberry, actually, the chocolate wasn't the chocolate I wanted. It was some oily thing that you have to add oil for the fountain to work. I went, I don't even want this. And as soon as I had the rule, it didn't have a party in my mouth, I didn't want it. Well, let me tell you, when I went home that day, how much I felt about myself. And I said, that's a good rule to have, Lucia. And I made that for myself, too.
Yeah.
About being mindful in the moment. I showed up for the feelings that came up. And I said, how can you help yourself feel better about leaving that wedding that day and feeling terrible about going?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
I know that sounds, that I made
that's
but it really was about
really awesome.
Why I felt that way too.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say, just be in the moment.
Okay.
Be in the moment. And even when I had so many people who wanted to work out and they couldn't, and sometimes she says, I just barely made it to the mailbox. I said, great. Just keep going to the mailbox then. Mm-hmm. You don't have to walk 5 miles. You'll see, some people say that you should walk, that you should be active at least 30 minutes a day, right? So I used to tell the people, saying, walk away from your house for 15 minutes. And unless you don't want to live with the people that are at that house, you got to walk home. So that's half an hour. That's a half an hour.
That's
they were like, what?
Yeah.
And that's because we looked at that differently. It was now a 15-minute walk.
Yeah.
Not a half an hour.
Yeah. I really like how you're just literally all about shifting the thinking in the moment. And you can't do that if you're not being present with your thinking.
Right.
Because it's just constant. Your thinking is constant. So
and
when you're sitting there eating that chocolate cake, what are you really thinking about? Oh my God, I'm going to hate this tomorrow. My butt's going to be bigger.
Look at me.
Shift that. Yeah.
I'm not good
enough.
Love that. Because those are not good enoughs were coming up.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I'm an intelligent woman. I know what to do. Like, I do not want to allow my emotion to take the bus. What is that Incubus song? The fear, don't let fear take the wheel and steer.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found that, just to say, my weight loss journey was such a metaphor for my life. Because if I didn't find the pieces of how I needed to do life on my terms, I was going to constantly be chasing somebody else's dream.
Right.
And I did not know I was doing that until I conquered this. Yeah. And to be honest with you, so that was almost 20 years ago that I lost the 80 pounds. And recently, in my move out here, I just recently outed myself to my audience about gaining 30 pounds and shifting, getting that I mean, I see how I did, and I see, just the changes in my life, moving up, I literally went from right to left. I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. I downsized everything, and a whole other story that's on my summit and whatnot that I have. But it was a lot of physical stuff that the mindfulness of my weight management took the back seat, which was okay in the moment. And then when all of this settled down, now the back seat came to the front seat, and I was like, oh, you suck. You gained 30 pounds. And I was like, whoa.
Oh.
Feelings, Susan.
Sneaky.
The feelings came back like again, that comfortable jacket.
Right.
And I had to lean into it again and say, okay, isn't that interesting how the feelings came right back up?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm back on my journey now to get the 30 pounds off. It is an 80. Thank you, Jesus. Right.
Yeah.
But the thoughts were just like that was 80. My thoughts were back in the flow of.
They're always going to be there. That is true. Our thoughts are always going to be there.
And I'm going to say that right out here, that they will always come up, but you now have a different way to look at things.
That's right. Yes. I love that.
And sometimes that changes. I'm not the woman I was almost 20 years ago. I'm 20 years older already. Yeah. I've already been living my food choices have changed dramatically, and they still do. Mm-hmm. My activity has changed. My activity here has changed. Now I injured myself and I'm not as active. So things have to shift with my life. It is life on life's terms. So I hope that helps, because I've really taken an approach to it, and not, and that's why I'm going to say I outed myself, because I found myself beating myself up again. And I said, how dare I not connect with someone who's feeling exactly like I am. And just as a PS, so many people responded to me for having said that. So many people said that is exactly how I feel. Yeah. And I was so thankful for shifting my mind yet again. So
well, no, I appreciate that you share that, because I too, like, just recently would say fell off the wagon, is how I always put it. And getting back into, like, okay, well, what was really going on? What happened? And why did I mow down that cake from the birthday party? Just what, really looking at that and taking on, like, the journaling and the thought process, because it really does have a lot to do with that. And would you agree too that some of our weight comes from just the everyday stresses or emotional baggage from our past?
Sure. Oh, heck yeah. Absolutely. It's the emotional baggage. It's the paradigms that were set so young in our life. My parents didn't realize they were from the Depression. And I was taught to finish everything on my plate. It was a sin not to eat everything. Now, they were saying those words. I formed it how I formed it in my head. How I rationalized it was that my parents didn't realize that the lesson that they meant to teach me was that they paid a price for me to have food on this plate.
Yeah.
And to have gratitude for that. But they didn't know that that's what they needed to say to me.
Right.
What
did you make it mean about you?
Well, they put God in it. Oh, God, first I was like, it's a sin, and then, and I had that whole religious background of what they had talked about. And so once I realized that was the lesson that they meant to teach me, I was able to look at this differently. That's why they said what they said. So finishing everything on your plate, whether I eat it or I throw it out, it's still gone, right? I don't want to waste. That is not my message. But my parents made me feel that unless I ingested it, that was then worth it. And they didn't realize. So, but like so much of that comes up, that is about your past.
Yeah.
That's about paradigms, but it could be even worse than that. I could have soothed myself for not having been loved enough from whoever. That wasn't my story, but I could have soothed myself with food, and then that food became a comfortable companion, and that's the relationship I have. I had to resolve the relationship I had with food.
Yep.
We all kind of do, right? We all have to do that, and not be.
Yeah, and it will come up, and it will come up from what like you said, like it wasn't your story, but you attached yourself to that story. So sometimes we don't even have um, our own story about it. It's just an attachment that we had to somebody else's
That's
story.
right. Continuation. That's right.
Yes, the continuation of it. So if you're not looking at these thoughts and these feelings and the things that are going on around and being present, because it all happens right here, right now.
Right.
And your access to that is when you're in a moment of maybe feeling sad or having a disempowering thought about, oh, my life sucks, or I hate this, or those are the moments that you access, and that's where you get your power, your power back, is so
Mm-hmm.
that you can actually see what it is that you're telling yourself in that moment.
And
And
that, you know,
so,
that kind of goes with accountability and setting
yes,
yourself up.
I
It,
was.
I'm
I'm
going to
glad you
tell
brought
you,
that up.
and yeah, because I'm glad that you have this group available for everybody, because accountability is all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah,
We, you know, if I hide by myself, I will totally always have the reasons why
yeah,
everything shows up, right? We don't want to quit on ourselves, but I
no,
always came up with reasons why I needed to. And you can't blame me, and here's why. But an
yeah,
accountability partner won't let you get away with that. And that's
yeah,
ultimately what ends up happening as a coach. I'm able to be that accountability
yeah,
partner and asking what's showing up and what's coming up. Because that,
yeah,
you know, there are many reasons, right? Some people were born and they've been overweight their whole life. Some people go through their whole life and find themselves, now they've gained all this weight. So wherever you're at is where you're at. And
right,
so sometimes our thinking will be different, right? We might not have had formed a paradigm when I was younger, because now I'm older and I've gained the weight. But you're telling yourself a story regardless of where you're at. There is a
right,
story you're telling. And
yeah,
sometimes we're so devoted to that story, and giving it up would mean then what? I had a woman once, she admitted she had only lost in a three month time frame 7 pounds. And I'm saying it like that because she said it like that. She said, I only lost 7 pounds. And what she freely admitted to everybody was that I don't know who I will be after I lose this weight, because I am so used to having all of this weight on me. I'm
yeah,
scared.
mm,
I thought that was what a great piece of
yes,
vulnerability, right? We all took a breath, and no one judged her, because everyone thought, holy shit, that could be me. And that probably is me. I don't even know if I've had that thought. But when she said it, I went, wow, that
wow,
makes sense.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah,
So, and you
wow,
know, we actually worked through that, because, you know, because she was feeling that. And I love that she was able to say that, because, you
yeah,
know, we never have a unique thought among us alone. We're not the only one. I always used to think I was in the boat rowing it by myself down the river, the lonely
right,
one. Meanwhile, I'm like, get an oar, jump in the
yeah,
boat. We're all in this together. Just
yeah,
a variety of different reasons, you know?
yeah,
So accountability, if you're willing to recognize and show up, that, you know, for me, weight was showing up as it was a symptom, right, to a
mm-hmm,
much deeper thing that was going on with me. It was just, you know, the outside thing.
mm-hmm,
And I knew that I needed to clear that up, or I wasn't going to be able to move forward from the greatness that's waiting for me. Like, I
yeah,
have all this stuff waiting for me, and I'm putting the actual weight in front of me.
yeah,
Yeah. So
hmm,
that's what accountability will be. Uh,
awesome,
yeah.
that's
On your
cool,
terms. Yeah, on your terms. Yeah, that's so you know, part of what I want to offer, you know, I have an ebook, and 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 in the ebook there's a couple of pages to help you through some of the thoughts, you know, bring up an event. It'll give you some um what's the word I want to use, just a little bit of a structure. It's not the word I'm
yeah,
looking for, but that's okay. A little bit of a structure for you to start getting started with how to look at things. I actually, when I was journaling my food, I would journal my emotions.
nice,
So that the
okay,
days that came up that I was, oh, this was good, this was a good day. And the days that I was like arm wrestling myself to have a ho-ho, you know,
yeah,
like, why am I feeling like that? You know, what is
yeah,
that? And I would put down the emotion there. And I really was able to then look back when you're
Yeah.
not emotional, that's the key. When you're not in the emotion, look back on your journal and go,
Okay.
because now now you're not emotionally connected to that.
Right.
There's a
Okay.
lot of that. So I have that ebook for your audience, as well as I want to gift everybody a free discovery call. And
Awesome.
I'll just ask that you private message me, and I'll get your information, and I'll send you the ebook and the calendar link. And if you're willing to just have a no obligation,
Yeah.
just a free call with me, I would love
Wow.
that. I would love that. We're all in this together, girl, right?
Yeah. What an amazing, those are some amazing gifts. And I just want to say to the women in my group, take advantage of these free gifts. They're, you don't know what you could get out of it, and what you could get in that moment on these free discovery calls. I know that that's like just the discovery call itself is like a $275 value.
Yeah,
Um,
it is. Thank
and I don't like to put a price tag on people's worth because it has nothing to do with your self-worth. It has to do with our commitment as life coaches to you
you. Right.
and what you're creating for yourself and your commitment in your life, and we can like help you navigate that. So that is such an amazing gift. Thank you, Lucia.
Oh, you're welcome.
Awesome.
Please. It's
All right.
it's interesting when what I think the benefit's been when somebody's walked in the shoes, that understands. It's not like, oh, I don't understand what you mean, but here's how we can help. I get it. I've been
Right.
I've been 80 pounds overweight. I get it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can, yeah. So I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bless you.
Bless
And
you.
you have a wonderful, wonderful day, my friend.
You too, sweetheart. Thank you so much.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody.